and expenditures, which I have on my bills to my clients.
Let's bring in our panel. Republican strategist Lauren Zelt, Alona Minkowski, an independent journalist, former New York Congressman Steve Israel, also the former chairman of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and Jason Nichols, lecturer for the University of Maryland's Department of African American Studies. So a big welcome to all four of you. And I want to ask you first, Steve, about your reaction to those remarks by Giuliani. How do you hear them?
Well, look, I have to say, Alex, this is the longest and most demeaning interview for a cabinet position that I have ever seen in my life. Everything that Rudy Giuliani is doing is geared to an audience of one. Let's remember that Rudy Giuliani was desperate to be in the Trump administration, desperate for a cabinet position. At the time, there were some concerns because he had some potential conflicts of interest and ethical issues, and so he was disqualified. Now we know that this is an administration where no conflict of interest is disqualified. And Rudy is knocking on the door again. The problem is that I really believe that he's doing a disservice to his client. I wouldn't hire Rudy Giuliani to represent me if I, got pulled over for speeding at this point. Doing a disservice to the President of the United States and his client.
That's a little harsh, I will say. However, can I just ask you, to your point about the cabinet position that he wanted, Steve, he really wanted to get Secretary of State. Do you think that is why he does not hold back speaking about matters he should not be speaking about, particularly if he's doing so incorrectly, like North Korea?
That is exactly what is going on and why it is so dangerous. Rudy Giuliani knows that he is auditioning. This is The Apprentice all over again. The problem is that he's
got a new Secretary of State. He was just confirmed, like Pompeo.
These guys, look, no moss grows under a Secretary of State or on any cabinet seat in this administration. And Rudy Giuliani knows it. He wanted that position. He wants it again. And he knows it doesn't matter what foreign leaders think about him. It matters what his potential boss thinks when he turns on the television, sees Rudy boosting his ratings. That is his #1 qualification to get back into the cabinet.
Lauren, Steve wouldn't even hire Rudy Giuliani to fix his speeding ticket. Do you think Rudy Giuliani potentially is doing more harm than help for the president?
I think a lot of Republicans were scratching their head this week when we saw the addition of Rudy Giuliani to the team, and also when we saw the Hannity interview and the interviews that followed. Look, as someone who does a lot of crisis communications for a living, I don't think he's helping in any way. I think that he's making the situation worse. And I think something to watch especially is when you look at Trump's base, they don't really care about this, but they also want it to conclude. They want to get on to business. They want the president to be talking about things like the 3.9 unemployment rate, growing jobs, our relations with, other countries, things like that. So, no, I don't really think that he's helping. I think that the congressman's theory is an interesting one, for sure. But I really do think that the administration would be better served to maybe keep him off the Sunday shows and the other primetime interviews for the time being.
Or at least until he gets up to speed, right? I mean, for the time being, right? I mean, he's the president's making excuses and saying, oh, he's only been on the job for a day. Well, then don't put him out on a media tour, for heaven's sake.
Right.
You've got Giuliani, who was trying to make the case that the president was not required to report the payments that he made to Michael Cohen. Let's listen to what he said on that.
It's not a loan. It's an expense. You don't include all legal fees or all legal payments on your financial disclosure form. And how can you do it when you don't know about it? I don't think anyone believes that he knew about it at the time. I think there's a question about when did he find out?
Does this do anything in your mind to clear up the questions about the president's financial disclosures?
What did the president know? When did he know it, right? We all keep repeating these questions, and I think that all of this is very confusing for a lot of people watching, and also at the same time, not all that shocking because you have someone like Rudy Giuliani, someone like Donald Trump, the president, of course, but similar characters who just can't help themselves, it seems, when it comes to going on television and just saying things that I'm not a legal expert, but every other legal expert I've listened to has said are not prudent and unwise when it comes to an investigation going on. But I do think that we have to point out an underlying point here, which is important when we're talking about Stormy Daniels and these payments. It's not just a story about payments, potential campaign finance violations, about a porn star. This is also about the character of the president of the United States. This is about paying off women to shut them up. And so, if there are questions, which Giuliani was asked about as to whether or not there are other payments like this, that again is all just playing into the character and of this president, and the tenor that he takes, the actions that he's taken when it comes to the treatment of women.
Look, you bring up character, very, very important. But by association, credibility as well has to be talked about, Jason. And these comments by Giuliani and the president have really sparked new questions about credibility for the White House overall. But then you listen to Counselor to the President Kellyanne Conway. She was denying that the White House is facing any sort of credibility crisis. Do you agree with that? I mean, how do you characterize the credibility of the White House right now?
Well, first of all, when we talk about character and then we bring up and Conway, to me that's kind of an issue right there. But one of the things that I would definitely say is when Giuliani spoke to Sean Hannity, he actually attacked the character of Jim Comey. And he actually said Jim Comey's a liar and that he's a leaker. And then he said, me, Rudolph Giuliani, has never leaked anything. And that's absolutely false. As a matter of fact, there was an unarmed black man in New York City named Patrick Dorisman who was shot by the police. And Giuliani leaked his sealed juvenile record, which is illegal and completely unethical. But yet Giuliani did that, and somehow he's selectively forgotten that. And one of the things that I will say about Giuliani, I know that there are some gangsters in Queens right now from the mafia who wish they had faced this Giuliani rather than the Giuliani of the mid-'80s who actually was competent.
That's interesting. Lauren, can you comment on that? I mean, this was America's mayor. People hung on his every word for quite some time. I'm going to say I was a local news reporter in New York City when he was America's mayor. I hung on his every word at press conferences. He was great to work with, great to ask questions of, and the way he responded was very direct and just strong. You didn't really challenge a lot of the things that he said because he was talking from facts and figures and a basis of a very, strong foundation. How about this guy?
I do think you're right about, everyone in our country, I think, did see him as America's mayor. It's been really difficult to see him fall from grace a little bit. And I think, especially myself, I've been questioning, I understand he probably wants to really help the president. Maybe he believes that he is, but, it is difficult to watch. I will say it is, because I do think that people did root for him for a really long time. And a lot of the decisions that he's making right now do seem to be questionable at best. And that is concerning, and it's also a little sad.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. But with regarding credibility, not only his, but others, Lauren, I mean, it's not just Giuliani. It is White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It's Chief of Staff John Kelly as well. They are all among the others whose credibility is now being questioned. So what are the potential implications of this? And I'm just curious, when you look to the White House, to whom do you look for, people who are going to speak and say things that you're going to believe?
Yeah, I certainly look to see, anytime Mercedes Schlapp comments on something, she is a very seasoned professional. I always looked at what she's saying, John Kelly and others. And, I know there was a lot of back and forth this week about whether or not Sarah Huckabee Sanders lies to the press. I saw a lot of people saying that it's the job of press secretaries to lie. I don't think that it is. And I think that's why you've had a lot of professionals decide to stay out of the White House. If they didn't feel that they could really do the job adequately and then may have to do that, they haven't wanted to. I don't know if she's lying or not, but I do think that the entrance of Mayor Giuliani onto the scene isn't really helping in this regard of the credibility question.
And Steve, I want to get your take on this and add to the equation as you consider it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, in her defense, she may not be getting any information with which to work from facts,
Or the information that she had at 10 to 9 changed at 9 o'clock. I mean, this is an administration. You need a neck brace to watch what is happening in this administration. I do want to say this. Look, in fairness, every administration has communications directors, and as a congressman, every member of Congress has comms directors, press secretaries, who have to sometimes evade a direct answer. That's usually the exception to the rule. In this administration, lying is the rule. They are constantly misrepresenting facts or just running into the truth. What I thought was interesting about Kellyanne Conway's interview earlier today, I detected a slightly different Kellyanne Conway. I detected a Kellyanne Conway who was very cognizant of the fact that her words may be used against her. She was saying things like, as far as I know, or this is what the president told me, but. And so I think that the administration's own staffers are becoming more cognizant of the facts that what they say may in fact not reveal or reflect any semblance to the truth.
Okay. None of you are excused. We are going to take a